Support for First Coast Connect is provided in part by Baptist Health and North Florida TPO.
Good morning. I'm Ann Schindler, and this is First Coast Connect. Today, from the chaos at the CDC to pregnancy robots in China, we're discussing the latest medical headlines with our own Dr. Joe Sirven. Later in the program, celebrating the 904. We ask 904 Day organizers what's planned for tomorrow's annual observance and how you can get involved. But first, I'm joined as I am each month by our own Dr. Joe Sirven, Mayo neurologist and host of the WJCT program and podcast, What's Health Got to Do with It? He visits us for a monthly house call to talk medical news and to take your calls and questions. You can reach us at 904-549-2937, or you can email firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Dr. Joe, welcome back.
Oh, happy September, Ann.
You as well. And
Thank
it's always
you.
a delight to see you. Thanks for the treats that you brought the office this morning.
I always
spoiled.
enjoy to do that once a month treat for you
Well,
guys.
we greatly appreciate it. I want to start with what's happening at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So this is a tough time for people in the world of public health. These are people whose job it is to protect the well-being of the people in the country, but also to protect pandemics and, protect us from large-scale outbreaks. So catch us up on what is happening at the CDC right now.
The CDC is in a very serious world of hurt at this time. We know that the recent director just resigned after the very dramatic, I'm not leaving now, she's fired type of approach that occurred. But with her, another group of her vice heads of different sections of the CDC also resigned as well. These are areas of emerging infections, the director of emerging infections, the director of respiratory infections. These are not minor things that, in terms of leaders that have left, these are institutional memory of folks that, so she walked out, as did these other leaders, and all of the knowledge that the CDC had within these people, and that's a lot, also left with them. Plus, you have a shooting. And all the workers who are very upset about how that was managed.
At CDC headquarters in Atlanta.
CDC in Atlanta. And before that, you had slashing of the budgets, lots of the layoffs that occurred. It's like, at first it looked like, death by many cuts. Now it's like, when you pile it all on top of one another, I mean, this is, I think, a very serious emergency here.
And we also had several former leaders dating back to 1977 writing to the New York Times this open letter calling this firing of the CDC head, adding considerable fuel to the raging fire at CDC. They represent collectively over 100 years of working at the CDC. And, they basically are saying that this is not just bad policy, but actually dangerous to the nation.
And when I see the list of names, and these are both Democrats, Republicans, Independents, it is so nonpartisan, very science, not in the world of politics when you look at that. It's so concerning. As I've shared with you, what I think people don't always appreciate about the CDC, everyone thinks about it in the world of a new infection, a global thing, a character in a movie plot. The CDC is health infrastructure for us, just like our electricity or gas or trash removal. These are the folks, when we are we need to collect information about what is going on with health to connect the dots and help someone like me, a physician, and my colleagues and nurses and nurse practitioners and everybody out there know what's going on, so that we know when there's an outbreak, and more importantly, what we can do about it, and then how to manage it. Otherwise, we start practicing very much in the dark when it comes to this. And I don't think people appreciate how crucial they are in our day-to-day lives.
Dr. Joe, the Daily podcast spoke to one of the leaders that stepped down, the director of the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases, as you referenced, Dr. Dimitri Daskalakis. His comments were pretty eye-opening. Let's just take a listen to what he had to say.
Sure.
The CDC that we're talking about today is not the CDC of even 2 years ago. And so I don't think that the place to be currently is in federal public health to be effective. So, I think that the need for some fearless advocates who know the inside is necessary. And I hope that, lifting the red flag so folks who are policymakers, folks in government really understand that there's something extremely wrong. And also, I think it's important for the American public to know that they really need to be cautious about the recommendations that they're hearing coming out of ACIP, given what we're telling you.
Wait, just so I'm clear, you're saying that the American people should now be wary of the advice they get from the agency that is tasked with keeping them safe.
Yes.
I mean, that is a pretty extraordinary thing for somebody who has worked for the CDC now saying doctors, physicians, the general public should look askance at statements, at data coming out of that agency.
It breaks my heart that you have someone stating that up front like that, but that is true. I mean, fundamentally now, I look at what comes out of there, and I used to always go to the CDC because they had a beautiful section, not only on outbreaks, but on chronic conditions and things of that sort, that served as kind of like the kind of the sense of where the numbers, what are the trends. Now I go to other sources, and that to me is sad because I don't know about. I'm hoping that those sources are also correct, but this was the official Bible, if you will, and this is just telling me here's one less area that we can completely count on, and that is heartbreaking.
If you're just joining us, we were talking to Dr. Joe Sirven. He's here for his monthly house call. We're talking medical headlines, and we're also taking your healthcare questions on any subject. You can reach us at 904-549-2937. You can also email firstcoastconnect at WJCT.org, or you can reach out on Facebook, Instagram, or X at FCC On Air. So this leads into another issue that I wanted to talk to you about today, and that is the split between the American Association of Pediatrics and the CDC. So this issue that we're talking about, whether the CDC information can be trusted, whether their recommendations should be followed, manifesting itself now with the Association of Pediatrics saying we're not following the CDC's recommendation when it comes to COVID vaccines.
So here's where the problem comes in. I love the fact the American Academy of Pediatrics is giving out the recommendations, as are other specialty groups in science. And in this case, it had to do with the fact that the official CDC or government line on COVID is not to give them to children unless they fall under certain categories and things of that sort. So that means that they're, for this group of children, they're not going to get them. Where it becomes a big issue is that the government-led line is what the Medicare, Medicaid, and insurance typically follows, and they don't often follow the American Academy of Pediatrics or any other specialty society. So what we need to see is what happens with regards to insurers, Medicare, Medicaid, commercial. Are they going to cover it or not? Who are they going to go with?
Yeah.
That is what's going to tell the tale.
And so, I mean, is that a political calculation that these insurers are going to make? Because, I mean, I think to be specific, if the CDC is saying we're not recommending these vaccines for children, usually that means insurance companies will not pay for them. They're not covered. But the Pediatrics Association of Pediatrics is saying you should pay for these, and so it's up to the insurance companies to decide will they.
Correct. So what I suspect will happen is what often happens in these battles is that Medicare will make a decision, and where Medicare goes, commercial insurance tends to follow.
Okay.
So
we can imagine.
That is the guess that I will make in terms of how they will try to formulate an opinion. So where Medicare goes on this is what we need to be following to understand who's going to get covered or not.
All right. We've got a call from Barry on the South Side. Good morning, Barry. Go ahead.
Good morning. It's funny that you're talking about this. I'm actually driving to the VA clinic so I can get my COVID booster for this year because I couldn't get one at CVS or Walgreens. And it makes no sense that I want to make the choice to protect myself, to protect my family, but they're limiting the options of everybody because of nonsense anti-vax conspiracy theories. And it's driving me crazy that people are going to be less safe in this country because of just misinformation.
Thanks, Barry. It does seem that it is limiting the ability of people to make their own determinations about their own health, Dr. Joe. And in some ways, that seems anathema to what this administration and the whole MAHA movement, about kind of doing your research, making your decisions on an individualized basis, not being told what to do. This seems to sort of be a deviation from that if people can't say, look, I want to get the vaccine.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Let me give kudos to Barry for going out and getting your COVID vaccine. Do it, and I'm delighted that he's doing it. But he's highlighted one of the kind of crucial points when it comes to like how we are accustomed to getting these vaccines. Most of us during COVID basically just went to any pharmacy anywhere. Maybe you had it at your physician's offices, but many of us just when you were in the grocery store, I remember the lines in Walmart
Publix.
and Target, Publix, people just kind of walked in, you got it. This is where things have changed. I know as of last Friday, because things changed very quickly, CVS has stated that at least 16 states, they will only allow the pharmacist to deliver that vaccine if there's a prescription. Florida does fall as one of those 16 states. They also said, though, if the federal approach or policy changes on this, they will follow it as well. So we're going to have to be seeing where CVS, Walgreens, Publix, all these other drugstores go with regards to this, because there are legal issues with if a pharmacist gives out a vaccine in these states without the prescription based on law. So we have to see where that goes.
And so we know that right now the American Association of Pediatrics is recommending that kids get them if they're high risk at ages 2 to 18. But basically the government is saying that they shouldn't be getting them after 6 months unless there's a sort of a special category that they fall into.
And that's the part I would tell folks to listen to the American Academy of Pediatrics. They have fantastic people who have very much worked on the science on this area for years and were instrumental in those early days with regards to the vaccine as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, I do want to talk about the a different issue. It's a little bit less kind of heavy. But if you're just joining us, we are talking with Dr. Joe Sirven. We welcome your calls and comments. You can reach us at 904-549-2937. You can email us at firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Pregnancy robots. I mean, so yes, there's a lot of advances in the world of robotics. This really kind of still kicks the knees out from under you. So this is something that a Chinese developer has come up with, the idea of outsourcing pregnancy.
First a shout out to Dr. Donna Ivory, who always appears on our show, for sending me this article. And I was, again, with an oh my God moment when I saw it, and I just had to make sure it was not an April Fool's joke or anything along those lines. Yeah, they are a Chinese robotics company is looking to see whether they can have a robot kind of mimic the circumstances of pregnancy so that it can carry a baby to term. They are very far off on this, because there are some aspects of pregnancy that you can mimic very early on, very easily in laboratory when you're in the embryo state. As you get closer to where you have a higher dependence on the placenta, things that sort, they have not figured out how to remimic the placenta. Let's not even talk about the ethics, the realities that kind of comes into this, but that just shows you where people's heads are in terms of science completely outpacing this. They are trying this out with animals and things that sort, but there are a lot of science that they have not figured out. But yes, people are trying to figure out how to outsource a pregnancy to a robot.
Yeah, I mean, I found it a little concerning that they're simultaneously calling this a robot wife, which I think is perhaps not the right path that we want to go to. But I mean, China's a place where surrogacy is illegal. I don't know that there would be a robotic substitution for a human if you can't already outsource pregnancy to a living person.
Let's just say that I'm going to park this on the back burner until I see that there's actually something that is moving forward. But it just tells you that where there's a will, sometimes there's a way.
Yeah, and I guess where there's investment capital, you can
Correct.
develop lots of things. Well, so in the real world of birth control and childbirth, there is a lot of concern right now about misinformation spreading on social media, particularly places like TikTok, the where a lot of young women are taking to offering medical advice based on their own anecdotal experience or their concerns, and um, sort of putting out some misinformation. Tell us what's happening there.
So what we've seen is that on TikTok there is a lot, as you pointed out, young folks, non-medical professionals, from what we can see, that put out medical misinformation about things such as the birth control pill, and it seems to have some ability to kind of be sticky with folks. There have been rumors that perhaps the birth control pill contributes to infertility. There have been rumors that perhaps the birth control pill causes feelings of bisexuality. I mean, really jumping out there.
We should say neither of those things are true.
Let's double down and say neither of those are true, but enough that someone could listen to this and decide that this is true and make maybe not a choice that they do not need to make because it's based on false information. I'm all for, I mean, nothing is innocent, and there are going to be side effects with oral contraceptives and birth control pills, but ultimately it's up to the person who, whether they want to take it or not, based on having good, accurate information with this. Not some person who has no medical degree, doesn't have to speak to any medical board, take any tests, or or kind of have to learn the science, giving people false information, and then someone makes a decision. I mean, perhaps someone gets pregnant because they chose not to take this because of fears of these things. If those were true, fine, but you have to base it on real, solid information, and that is a real thing happening.
I mean, we know that on social media, the things that, spawn engagement are things like personal anecdotes, emotional stories. Sometimes you have women sharing in tears, talking about their hormonal state, that they're reacting to, different levels of hormones in the birth control medication. And so those kinds of messages, especially if you're dealing with, young and very attractive people, those messages really are a lot stickier than what you're going to hear from a kind of staid medical outlet. There also has been a lot of attention given to the sheer size of the warnings that come with birth control pills. There's like a few of these TikToks where people are spreading them out like they're a blanket, pointing to the warnings almost as an indicator of risk, perhaps as an indicator of just how researched this product is.
It is. I mean, again, I will point out there are real side effects to oral contraceptives to which you do need to make decisions, and for some women, that is a very real thing that they should consider in consultation with their provider, whoever that may be. That's the relationship you should really be focusing on.
It's really based on your family health history, your current health state, right?
Absolutely. I mean, for some people, you have to look to see, do they have high blood pressure? Do they have other clotting issues? These are the type of things that you get into when you're when you're discussing it with someone who's going to kind of guide you in that direction. But going to TikTok, that's not going to give you that honest information as to whether it's applicable to you, no matter how attractive, how beautiful, how glamorous the person telling you that is in that video.
I mean, there is also a kind of a political aspect to this as well, because there has been a lot of pushback recently on contraception generally, and whether it should be, maybe more difficult to get, whether it's safe. People have talked about dangers associated with things like IUDs. And there is also just a bigger push, pro-fertility push in this country, that is also happening at very high levels in the political world.
And this is where I think we get into problems. It's where it's like it almost this ties in beautifully to the first part of our conversation. It's when politics gets in the middle of something very personal. That's where we end up with problems and concerns. And yes, this is very much can have a political overlay. But what I will tell folks over and over, talk to your doctor, to your nurse practitioner, to your PA, to your nurse, to whomever that person that you trust with. That's really where this decision is made, not some external group that is going to guide. It's really the relationship. And I know that it is not always easy to craft that relationship, but that relationship, it could get these questions answered for you.
It is frustrating increasingly for providers as well. And this is the world of medical misinformation,
Yep.
what they're encountering and seeing as pervasive falsehoods. And sometimes they're in a circumstance where they're trying to counter this mass of information, this mass of misinformation that their clients, their patients are coming to them with in a 10 to 12 minute window to sort of right the ship that has been building over perhaps the previous year since they last saw their doctor. Increasingly, we're seeing doctors saying they're really kind of overwhelmed by the amount of misinformation their patients are expressing to them.
And this is almost a perfect storm. You have a situation of medical misinformation run rampant on top of physician shortage, on top of other provider shortage, and people just trying to get access. Someone fills in that void, and this is where social media is coming in. Yes, this is very hard for the providers, and it's very hard because you have to kind of almost like really get back down to very basic education, if you will, at a time where the time is shrunk in that regard. But this is the deck that we've been dealt, the cards that we have to manage now, and yes, it's hard, but this is, I think, one of the things I keep seeing a lot of folks are now more interested in the medical field, in education policy and education theory to see how we can kind of do a better job in preserving those relationships.
We're talking to Dr. Joe Sirven. We have a call from Ellis in Jacksonville. Good morning, Ellis. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I am talking in terms of the calendar when I say this. Where do you come down on these people that are saying, and I do have the misfortune of being over 65, where do you come down on this thing of don't get this fall's COVID shot, don't get this year's flu shot too early?
Oh, thank you for that question. And there's nothing wrong with being 65 years or over. So let me, either direction. Actually, that's what's going to get you that shot more easily than not being over 65. So I'll start there. Where it's important is that, no, it is good to get the shot now. Let me say it personally. I just had my physical. I got my shots, and I very much will get them now. September is typically when the new formulations come in. So I would say right now, the next week or two, perfect timing for you to kind of do this. We are still in a COVID surge. They have redone the COVID vaccine, COVID booster, excuse me. This is the perfect time to get it. I'm very much on the side of it. I'm also will lead by example. I'm the first one who gets in line for those shots. I still remember in the middle of the COVID, the original COVID element, begging to get a vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Like I might add, so did many other people.
Yeah.
We're still in that same boat, and that condition still hurts a lot of people.
Do you advise that people have that conversation with their primary care, or are you comfortable just saying, we should be getting these shots regardless?
I think that talking to your primary care is the best and thing no matter what. I'm going to walk in and I'm always going to go, if there's a vaccine for it, I'm definitely going to go down that route. But talk to your doctor to see, or to the provider that you see. because it'll give you a better sense of timing of like, is this the right moment? Should you wait a few months? Just to kind of make it work the best for you, optimal for you. That's what I would kind of say in that regard.
I want to just return briefly to the question of misinformation, because there was this poll that the Physicians Foundation did that found 61% of doctors said patients show moderate or a great deal of misinformation. 86% of them saw an increase in misinformation, and 50% in just the last 2 years saw a significant increase in the amount of misinformation. So I wonder, I mean, you're a neurologist, everybody likes to play Dr. Google, but do you think that there is less of that in a specialty area like your own, where people, where the knowledge is much more refined and the area is much more sort of specific?
Dare to dream. This is where I would go with that. I will just tell you, in my area where I'm talking about brain and spinal cord, you live in a sea of misinformation. Whether it's the latest supplement or this approach to this condition, we have oodles of things. So no, the specialty doesn't protect you from that. If anything, it just brings on a flood of more very specific to a condition type of information that you're just trying to undo, if you will.
That's surprising, and also, I guess, making your job very difficult. We've got a call from Sally in Springfield. Good morning, Sally. Go ahead.
Good morning. Yes. I have been following what's going on at the CDC and have just been mortified. My question is, where do we go to get information? And because it doesn't seem like we can trust the CDC anymore. And secondly, have the new flu shots been formulated? Because it's my understanding that the committee that was doing that was let go, and the same for COVID. Has that been updated to match the new strains? Thank you very much.
Great question, Sally.
I'll start off with the shots. That they have been reformulated, at least the ones that, to our knowledge, that will be coming out shortly. They will reflect the latest formulations. Yes, there have been, I think where the weight is what the final say is from the government and Medicare, but when those come out, those will be reformulated. Where the issues will arise is who gets to get them. On the issue of information, where to get the information, there are a lot of sources. That's the good news here. If you're looking for a particular condition, especially we were just talking about specialty, go to the specialty organization. They will have lots of the latest, greatest science that's happening. The American College of Cardiology, American Academy of Neurology, the American Academy of Pediatrics. You almost have to go a little bit more specific to the condition. For overall health, I'm going to kind of have a full disclaimer. I do work at Mayo Clinic, but the Mayo Clinic health site is fantastic, as is the Cleveland Clinic health site. So is the folks at Hopkins, at Harvard. Those institutions will also have good information out there. So you can find it through healthcare organizations. You can find it through the specialty organizations. That is what you will know. We recently had your local epidemiologist as a guest on our What's Health Got to Do with It.
And that is actually a person who writes a newsletter, right?
She's a former epidemiologist. She used to have with the CDC. She has this huge following, a fantastic newsletter with where she's kind of collecting data from left and right from all over the country to try to fill in the hole to where the information vacuums are occurring to give us honest information that's in that way. So there are these other sources that are there that very much we are, and I would speak as a group for all those groups I just mentioned, we are all in the business of wanting to keep people safe, healthy, and alive. And there really is not other type of desires, if you will, in terms of putting that information. It's just to help people out.
And you were nice. You didn't correct me, but it's the American Academy of Pediatrics. I've been saying American Association of Pediatrics.
No worries.
So I want to shift gears and just talk about this public health emergency that Mississippi has declared, because that is a really kind of stunning declaration, at least in my experience. I'm not sure how frequently that happens, but this is related to infant mortality.
So their infant mortality rate is just so high. It's like 15, I believe, is the number per the 1,000 live births that they have. That is huge. That is a far greater number than anything else that's reported, and it's primarily related to the fact that it is either from poor prenatal prenatal care during pregnancy or problems during pregnancy itself. Mississippi, just to give you a statistic, 50%, 50% of counties in Mississippi live in an OB desert. That means there is no hospital doing OBGYN in that state in 50% of their counties.
Wow.
A lot of people left the state, and this is not just akin just to one state. These are in areas where the laws have changed and things have occurred that have led these doctors and hospitals to leave that particular area of care. And this is what you get. You get people who are poor, who need preterm care, who need to be monitored and watched over those 9 months, and then have decent facilities and access because they may be more likely to have complications. People die from that. And that is where we're seeing why they declared it. That is very unusual to declare that type of emergency. But thank God that they did, because it helps to highlight the issues. But it's a bigger trend because we have to watch those that have not declared emergencies, whether we are seeing still huge numbers of deaths that should not be happening with that group.
We've got a call from Nikki on the South Side. Good morning, Nikki. Go ahead.
Good morning. I just wanted to provide a little bit of clarity on why some primary care physicians may recommend postponing the COVID and flu vaccines until just a little later in the season. And that's typically because their thinking is around the issue of the highest level of immunity lasting longer until the high-risk season. So, for instance, instead of getting it at the beginning of September, if you wait 4, 6, or 8 weeks and you get it later in October, then your highest levels of immunity are going to last you longer into, say, January or so. And the only exception they typically, at least for the concierge firm that I work with, make is unless you're going to be around very large groups of people or traveling, and then they do recommend you go ahead and get it as soon as you can.
Good clarity, Nikki.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. I appreciate that. And you're absolutely right. This is all about timing, right? It's about how to kind of hit the moment that you're going to be exposed to it, that it's going to work for you, the vast majority of folks. So I really appreciate that comment.
In terms of the public health emergency in Mississippi, I mean, I did just want to point out one element of that statistic, which is, once again, a huge racial disparity that is part of this. So neonatal deaths in Mississippi for Black families, 15, more than 15 babies per 1,000 live births. That's compared to fewer than 6 per 1,000 for families, families not of color, white families. So that is a really, astonishing difference.
It's 3 times, as you just saw that, and I might add that 6 per 1,000 is still
Not
relatively.
great.
That's not that great either. This is something that should be way better for such a very wealthy country with lots of resources in this way. That should just not be happening in any state.
Yeah. Just briefly, this research into phantom limbs, and it's kind of another robotics development, but the problem of phantom limbs has been so elusive and such a strange area of research. We know that people who've had something amputated, a limb, very often are feeling pain. Sometimes, things that are less problematic, like itching perhaps, but it can be a real struggle for people. And doctors have been really not sure why it persists as long as it does.
So what's cool about this phantom limb story is, I think, how it fits into our future and technology. One of the things that they found was that they always thought that when someone had an amputation, that there's this significant amount of rewiring that occurs in the brain, and then it tries to figure things out. What they found in this particular area study, which is I think very cool for the future, is that they found that the same area of like what would you'd have sensation for the leg that you lost or the foot that you lost is still very much there waiting to get reconnected to something, so to that limb, just so that it can work. Where that is cool, and it's a positive piece of information after our conversation today, is that means for brain computer interfaces, for limbs that perhaps the next generation that connects right into the nervous system, the brain is waiting for it, waiting to connect back to it so it can kind of prime itself to connect to that lost
And so
limb.
once the technology is there, we're going to have perhaps a much more agile limb replacement.
Exactly. And that, I think, is probably the most positive thing
Of the day.
That I can give you on that note.
We'll
right
end
there.
it there. Dr. Joe Sirven, thank you so much. Dr. Joe Sirven hosts What's Health Got to Do with It? It's a Saturday show on WJCT. It's a podcast. He's here once a month to talk to us. Dr. Joe, thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure, Ann.
All right. Up next, we're talking about 904 Day, celebrating it here in the hometown. Welcome back. Well, it is a grassroots celebration of hometown pride. 904 Day showcases all things covered by the area code, from local businesses to civic groups to area nonprofits. Here to tell us about it is Liz McCoy. She is the executive director of James Weldon Johnson Park. Welcome back, Liz.
Hi, it's so good to be here again.
It's good to have you. We're also joined by Carissa Marquez, 904 Day committee chair. Hey, Carissa.
Hi, good morning.
So first of all, what is the history of 904 Day? I know that it kind of got like I don't know, what you call it, a glow up in 2021, but when did it actually get rolling here? Was it the first of some, or was it part of a long line of cities that are doing these?
So there are other cities in Florida that are doing similar local pride based on their area code events. Miami has 305 Day, Tampa has 813, and in 2021, a group of different people from, nonprofits and organizations around town, including WJCT, were like, you know what, let's do 904 Day here in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it's just built momentum. We've had many people join the planning committee, including Liz and James Weldon Johnson Park. And yeah, it's great to see it grow.
And when you're organizing it and coordinating it, how are you getting people to participate? And what are you asking of them if they choose to participate? What is it that they bring to kind of broaden the celebration?
So we're asking people to go to your favorite local businesses, donate to local nonprofits, spend time outside in community settings, really fill up those public spaces and connect with your neighbors. I think that's the best thing you could do to celebrate local pride, is by actually getting to know your community.
Yeah. And Liz, the James Weldon Johnson Park, of course, is the centerpiece of downtown in a lot of ways. It's the park that's right outside City Hall.
Right.
And it has its own great history. It's a beautiful space,
Thank you.
But there's a lot of programming that you guys do there. And so it's not just like a park space. It is a very active space.
Thank you. Yes, we do try to, of course, we are the heart of downtown, and we are activating it to, of course, make sure that downtown is alive and active, and really people can participate. One of the things that there's a website for 904 Day called hooray4904day.com. And one of the ways, if you're struggling with a way to celebrate 904 Day, you can download a bingo card. And on that bingo card, there's many different ways that you can celebrate. And about 3 or maybe more of them, you can celebrate right there in James Weldon Johnson Park. One of which, visit a public space. Also, frequent a local establishment. And of course, we've got food trucks there every day. So you can you can support local right there
See,
in
my
JWJ.
904 bingo card is like finding a lazy boy in the middle of 295, but there's all kinds of things that you can celebrate around the city. But I mean, to that point, are there things that we try to recognize as our own local kind of weird, and funky things as opposed to just sort of like the Chamber of Commerce, good stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think of things like the dinosaur on Beach Boulevard, which has become sort of iconic when it once was sort of just a silly uh, structure at a mini golf.
And there's, of course,
Right?
Duval.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Duval and beyond.
Yeah.
Everywhere in the 904. It could be Putnam County, Baker, Nassau, St. John's, anywhere in like that greater First Coast area. I know the Orange Park Mall is doing some things. They have activations there. I think when I think 904, like you said, just like whatever makes it funky, whatever makes it Florida to you.
Yeah.
We are unique. And a lot of times we like to make fun of ourselves, right? But there's so much to be proud of here in Jacksonville and beyond. And that's what the day is all about, just celebrating us and celebrating the things that make us unique. I know I moved here with the thought that Jacksonville is a place where my quality of life is going to be better.
Mhm.
And so that deserves to be celebrated.
hmm And is the park doing any special programming? This is tomorrow.
Yes.
904, yeah.
Well, we have tonight, of course, is Art Walk, and we're going to be celebrating 904 Day a little bit early
Okay.
in the park. Also, we've got a launch of something tomorrow. So watch our social media tomorrow, and there'll be a contest that will be along with that launch. And then also at MoCA tomorrow night, the City of Jacksonville Film Office and Visit Jacksonville, they're going to be presenting a documentary by Kinetic Productions. It starts at 5:30, and it's all about Duval history.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned nonprofits, Carissa. One of the things that has been a focus in recent celebrations is to try to get people to donate, even if they're donating $9.04. Right? It's you can
Exactly.
start small, but to reach out to a nonprofit that you care about and donate.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, put your money where your mouth is, support your local community. I know tomorrow night I'll be going to the Ritz Theater. They're having their Uptown Market. So just finding different spots in your community to have fun, make a difference.
There's
Yeah.
8,400 nonprofits in Jacksonville,
Wow.
including WJCT. So you can find something to support.
And so you mentioned the Uptown Market for 904 Pride at the Ritz, but the Garden Club is also doing an event where they're going to be selling farmers and having refreshments. Friendship Fountain, there's free yoga at the fountain. And then, of course, the Duval Lounge at JWJ Park will be fun. So 904 Day, it's hooray for 904 Day?
Hooray for 904day.com.
All right. More info there. It is great to talk to you guys. Liz
Great to talk to
McCoy,
you.
Carissa Marquez, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
us.
All right. Up next, a local production of a Broadway musical tells the true story of Canada's compassion in the wake of 9/11.
Lutheran Social Services presents Two Piano Journey, a benefit featuring mother-son piano duo Chris and Michelle Kuo. Saturday, September 13th at 7 p.m. at Friday Musicale. Next stop, Carnegie Hall. Tickets available at lssjacks.org. Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com.
Want to stay on top of what's happening on the First Coast on your schedule? WJCT News Now delivers the morning report every weekday covering big local stories, plus health news made simple, behind-the-scenes reporting, and community stories all as podcasts you can play anytime. You'll also get a newsletter with new and popular podcast recommendations. Help keep local public media strong. Start your free trial at wjct.org/newsnow.
On Monday, 9 former directors of the Centers for Disease Control issued a scathing critique of Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s leadership. On the next Fresh Air, the New York Times' Cheryl Gay Stolberg talks about Kennedy and autism, COVID vaccines, and the contentious events that led to the firing of CDC Director Susan Menares. Join us
today at noon on WJCT News 89.9.
President Trump strikes a deal with Intel. It gives the federal government a 10% stake in the semiconductor manufacturer. And the administration says it's considered taking equity stakes in defense and munitions contracts. What do these moves mean for U.S. taxpayers and the future of presidential authority in the business world? That's next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, a Broadway musical tells the story of a small Canadian town that stepped up in the wake of the 9/11 attacks. Here to talk about a new performance of the show at the Alhambra Theater, I'm joined by Jennifer Medor, actor playing Beverly, in addition to several other characters. Jennifer, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
We're also joined by James Skiba, who, among other roles, plays the character Claude, and you play a handful, 5, 6 others? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So this town came together to help stranded travelers in the wake of the September 11th attacks, and it is based on a true story. Jennifer, your character is actually based on a pilot who was stranded in this small town along with a plane load of her passengers. Tell us a little bit about her story, Beverly.
Sure. So Beverly Bass is a real person. She was actually the first American Airlines pilot in United States history.
First female.
First female.
Yes,
Yes,
right,
yes.
okay.
Sorry. And she was flying a plane from Paris to Dallas on 9/11. And so she was one of the flights who was rerouted into Gander.
Yeah. And this, obviously 9/11 is a story we're all very familiar with, but the story of this little town of Gander is very special and was a very obviously isolated story because it's a very isolated place. Tell us a little bit about what happens after the plane is diverted. There are a lot of people who end up in this little town.
Yes, there were 7,000 displaced people in the city of Gander. And, everybody was in such a state of shock and panic. Nobody really knew what was going on. All they knew was that something bad had happened in New York and that the United States airspace was closed. So the 7,000 people that were rerouted to Gander were at first kept on their planes until, there was some sense of peace that they could let them off of the planes. So the story of Come From Away is really about how the citizens of Gander opened their hearts and homes to these 7,000 displaced people and fed them, clothed them, gave them a place to sleep, and really even gave them activities and love.
Yeah. James, one of the characters that you play is the mayor of this little town. And Jennifer mentioned 7,000 people who ended up being there for, in some cases, as long as a week before air travel resumed its normal functions in the wake of 9/11. So you play the mayor of this town, and it basically doubled the population of this town. And so it's not just an act of kindness. It's this enormous organizational effort that has to happen. So it must be kind of fun to play a character, like on the safe side of this very traumatic event, looking back at that time.
Yeah, it's also, again, based on an actual real person. And there's some interviews you can find online. I found one and watched him, and he was like, yeah, it's not just the one small town, but they organized and figured out how to get people in all the small communities, a lot of small communities. And there's a joke in the show about every town of 1,000 people has their own mayor. And so one of the points is I play actually 4 mayors in rapid succession. I put on a pair of glasses, put a mustache up, put a hat on, and I play 4 different mayors of 4 of the many towns that took in people, because there were over 200 planes that landed at this airport
Wow.
in that one day. And then the 7,000 people were then dispersed throughout the communities and then taken care of.
Yeah, it's not a town with a lot of hotels or anything like
No.
that. And so this production at Alhambra is there's a live band component, which is really kind of a special thing. Can you talk about just what the performance is like? You opened last week, and what reaction you're getting from the audiences. I mean, this really is a crowd favorite when it was on Broadway.
We are having an incredible response. The live band adds a layer of excitement and energy that literally reverberates through the audience and through us as an actor on stage with the drum kit and the guitar and the bass behind us. It's pouring energy into us, and then we are pouring our energy into the audience. It's amazing.
Yeah. It must be nice to play kind of nice characters, nice people doing nice things. I think our relationship with Canada is not what it once was, but it must kind of feel good to be in a production that makes people feel, both very good about kind of humans and a time that, even though it was really difficult, ended up being, an opportunity to connect.
Oh, definitely. And that's the thing about this show. I mean, it is a very, hard subject for a lot of people. We all have a personal relationship to that, but the show, the way it was written, adds a lot of humor. They find ways to make it very light and humor, and a lot of hope comes out of it. I think the audience, I think, really relates and connects with a lot of the characters, because by the end you'll hear audible reactions, like when the one couple gets together, like "oh," and when the woman who deals with the animals relates part of a story, the audience has an audible gasp and things like that. So they really become connected to these people. It may be a little confusing. We'll understand that because we pay 12 actors play over 50 people.
Yeah.
And it's like rapid fire. We don't leave the stage. It's just a hat or a pair of glasses or a vest becomes a new character, and we just turn around, put it on, and turn back around, and we're another person.
Well, it is quite an exertion, I'm sure. But it is called Come From Away. It's at Alhambra Jack's. It runs through October 5th. James Skiba, Jennifer, thank you both so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you for listening. That's our program. If you missed anything, you can catch our rebroadcast at 8 o'clock tonight or find our entire archive at WJCT.org. Join us tomorrow when we talk to the author of a new investigation into how the $53 billion addiction treatment industry profits from, and in some cases, imperils its patients. I'm Ann Schindler. You've been listening to First Coast Connect on WJCT News 89.9.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist Health and the North Florida TPO.
Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com. The North Florida TPO is committed to shaping our transportation future. We're focused on planning, funding, clean fuels, and new technologies for a vibrant, connected community. Learn more at northfloridatpo.com. Congaree & Pen, dedicated to agriculture and culinary endeavors, offering field-to-fork dining and outdoor experiences on over 300 acres.